everybody, welcome back to Rain and Pours. I am Mitch and today I'm going to be mixing up the new pouring medium for the Sheleeart bloom technique. So if you're in Australia at the moment, you would know that the pouring medium for the Sheleeart bloom technique has changed because the untinted paint that we used to buy, the Taubman's untinted door and trim in gloss in neutral, has been discontinued. So we had to find a solution. That paint is no longer being produced at all. So if you've got any, save it, use up as much as you can because it's no longer available. So what Shelley has recommended as our new paint is this one, the Taubman's water-based enamel, interior and exterior gloss in neutral. So Shelley recommends this one. I have tried one other substitute paint, which is the Taubman's sunproof exterior gloss in neutral. This one's also water-based. However, this one, the water-based enamel, is the one that Shelley has recommended. Now, this one is twice the price of the old paint, which is, you know, a kick in the guts for us. And she is working on getting the neutral door and trim gloss back. However, while we wait, this is our best option. Now, the sunproof that I just showed you will work for blooms. I do have a test tile here somewhere. So I did a black background with just one pigment on there and a cell activator, and I got this result. So you can see that I got cells and lacing, everything looks normal. However, that was just a small scale test and with one pigment only. So today I'm going to be testing this pouring medium and seeing what it is like. So Shelley thinks that this one is almost the closest in texture to the door and trim. And when you open the lid, it looks very much the same. Now I'm going to grab my drill with my paint mixer attachment. Just give me a sec because I've got a little bit of white in there, although it's not going to make a difference. Okay. So I've got a little paint mixer attachment for my drill, which I'm just going to make sure is firmly attached. Okay, and we're going to mix this up. So this does have the layer of gloss on the top that is common with our glossy paints. So we're going to mix that all in. This drill attachment definitely makes mixing much quicker. However, you do have to make sure that you don't bring it too close to the surface, otherwise you can introduce bubbles. So that's nice and mixed. I am going to just go over that, or go through that I should say, with a paint stirrer, just very gently to make sure that the top and sides are all incorporated and that everything is scraped nicely into the mixture. Now this one is the gloss. Shelley has recommended mixing this half and half with the semi-gloss, but we're going to see how this looks. So in terms of consistency, this is still very thick. Okay, so it does drizzle off the pouring stick. Let me bring you down a bit closer. So this is what the Taubman's water-based enamel looks like. So you can see it's drizzling off the stick and it's leaving that mound in the paint, what I call a trace, and that's sticking around for maybe 10 seconds. So let's count it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that's about the consistency I like my pillow at. So this is nice and thick, ready to be thinned down. So we'll try and mix this up with some fluid paints as well as some heavy body and medium body paints as well as pigments. So the reason we want a clear drying paint when we're working with pigments is so that it doesn't dull the sparkle or the color of the pigment. So my pigments of choice are This Little Piggy pigments, and we're going to mix up a couple of those now. Okay, so let me clean up my stir stick and spinner and I will be right back. Okay, so I'm going to use this big 1 litre container to mix up my pouring medium, and we're going to see how it goes. Now, I think I will use my little strainer tool here. This is just a little strainer that clips onto the edge of your paint can and acts like a little funnel. These are really handy. They're flexible and they're great for pouring into these containers. So let's pour this in. So this paint is lovely, thick and pourable already, and I don't think I'm actually going to mix up my pouring medium at all. I'm just going to pour this into here, and I'll mix each colour individually when I go to make them up. I think that's going to be the best way to control the viscosity of the paint and make sure that I'm not oversaturating it with varnish and causing issues later on down the track. So I'm going to put this aside, I'm going to put my bottle aside, my tin aside, and we'll come right back and I'll mix up some colours with you. Okay, so the colours I'm going to mix up are actually 3 brand new This Little Piggy pigments. So these are Honeycomb, which is this gorgeous egg yellow colour. Loving that. I have Waterfall, which is a deep, almost navy blue. And we have Prehnite, which is a lovely mint green. And this one was requested by Lisa, and it is lovingly referred to by her as Martha Stewart green. For some reason, she relates this colour to Martha Stewart. So I'm going to set up my macro camera, and we'll get mixing on my little sample bags of these pigments. Okay, so this is Waterfall. Lovely, lovely navy blue colour. And we're going to mix that up with a little bit of Jo Sonja varnish and the new Taubman's interior exterior water-based enamel. So let's use a fair bit of this little sample. This is a really lovely colour. It's so nice and deep. It's not quite as dark as Sapphire, but it's still got a lovely shimmer to it. Okay, so I'm just going to put a squirt of the Jo Sonja varnish. I don't want to add too much at this stage because I don't know how much it's going to thin our pouring medium. So I'm just mixing this up. This is what we call dispersing. You could do this in a mixing cup. Again, not mixing up too much, and this colour has just transformed in front of my eyes. This is the first time I'm mixing these up, by the way. Sometimes I mix them up before I get on camera, but this is the first time I've seen this, and it's gorgeous. So this colour right here is This Little Piggy Waterfall. It's such a deep blue. I would almost compare it to Taffy, but it's much darker than Taffy. Taffy is like a true blue, and this is more on the navy side, a little bit darker. So let's add some pouring medium to this. I'm going to put this into my mixing cup and get this mixed up. Okay, so I've got this in my cup here, and I'm going to bring this up just slightly so I can see, and bring my other camera up a little bit. Get that in focus. Alright, so we're adding our untinted paint. I'm going to try and mix up a full cup. I may need to add a little bit more pigment to this. We're about to find out. So because our colour has already been dispersed in that Jo Sonja gloss varnish, it makes it much easier to dissolve into our pouring medium. And it is mixing up nicely. Oh, that colour is so luscious. Absolutely gorgeous colour. Now, because the pouring medium is a milky white naturally, your colour may look a little bit washed out, but this right here is the perfect consistency for a bloom for me. Some people prefer their paints on the thicker side and some prefer it on the thinner side, but this is absolutely perfect for the way that I like it. So this colour is Waterfall. Okay, so we're back. We've mixed up our pouring medium and I've got all of my colours ready to go. So let's go through what I'm going to be using. So I have on this tray, I'm going to be doing a double cell activator, so I'm going to do white and black. I think I'll do black on top because I like the way that that looks over white on top. We're going to be using Waterfall from the new release. We're going to be using Boastful. This is an SUP, a stuck-up pig, and these have just been released as well. And this one is an amazing indigo to green color shift. I'm going to be using Stuck-Up Pig Pretentious. This one is fantastic. It goes from purple, blue, green, pink, gold, so many different colors in that one. I'm using Jo Sonja Red Violet, I believe. Yes, so that's a lovely deep pink here. I've got This Little Piggy Hustle from the Disco line. I have This Little Piggy Violet Rain, also from the new release. I have This Little Piggy Rosé. This is another one from the new release. This is a lovely light pink with silvery undertones. And Amsterdam Permanent Blue Violet. So this will give us a nice solid base to put our paints down on. Okay, so I'm going to work on a black base today. So I have my black British Paints exterior, low sheen, already tinted in black. So I picked this up from Bunnings. And I'm going to be doing a bloom. So for a bloom, I'm going to put that pillow directly in the center, and I'm just having a look at how this paint is moving, and it does look a touch thin. So we're going to do a bloom first, see how that paint spreads, and if we need to thicken up our pillow, I do have some that has already been mixed from a couple of days ago, and we're just going to see how that consistency is going now, because whenever you thicken up your pillow paint using the untinted paint, like I like to do, the longer it sits, the thicker it gets. So this paint is, the pillow paint is still good. So I'm going to just set that aside in case this doesn't work out. Okay, so before I pour any colours on, I'm going to get some paper towel ready. I always have an abundance of paper towel on hand at all times, because you never know when you've got to wipe yourself or your spinner, all those sorts of things. Alrighty, I've got my swipey tool. I also need a waste cup. So if you know me, I always swipe or scrape my wastage into a cup to be used at a later date. All about saving product and, you know, the environment and whatnot. I'm now just setting up a drying space on my drying rack for when these are ready. And the goal of today's pouring is to be able to take some nice photos of close-ups of my cells so I can put these onto clothing. So I've got my macro camera on standby and we are ready to paint. So this pillow is looking a little thin, so I am going to use my thickened pillow, which is in this container. I'm expecting chunks and globs in these because the edge of my paint has dried up and crusted over, and I will worry about those when I am pouring. I am just going to clean up the edge of the container, so on subsequent ones I'm not going to have so much of an issue. Okay, should now be fine. Alright, I think we're ready to pour. So first colour I want to lay down is a layer of Boastful, and I want this to cover most of this black so that when I blow this out, that Boastful will be visible as my first layer. Next I want Waterfall. I want this to be a prominent colour, so any colours you want prominent on your pour, put them as your first and last layers. So I am going to double up on the Waterfall because it's such a nice colour. Then I'm going to put the Jo Sonja Red Violet. A little bit of that. I'm going to put This Little Piggy Hustle. Lovely neon magenta. And you really don't need much of this for it to pop in your artwork. Then I'm going to put Violet Rain. Really, really love this colour. And it is thickening up quite a bit as it's standing. So I'm just going to give that a little splash of water and a good little stir. Then let's go on with some of the permanent blue violet. I can already see that my base was too thin. And lastly, some rosé. So that's the last of our pigments there. And let's finish off with another little bit of Hustle. That's going to give us some nice pops of neon over everything else. Okay. Now I'm going to put my cell activators on top, and I am going to get my head in the way to blow this out. So let's go with white first, then black. Plenty of cell activator on here because it's quite a big puddle. I'm going to move this towards me to do this. Okay, now I'm going to grab my little puffer tool. That made me really, really dizzy. And I'm going to blow out these little bits of cell activator in the middle. Okay, looking good so far. So let's give this a spin and see how we get on. Where are we losing paint? Okay, so I need a little bit more paint over here. So I'm going to take my pillow and just very lightly pour that around the edge just to make sure everything flows nicely. And that side I think should be fine. Just put a little bit on. So this is just making sure that the paint's all going to flow and it's not going to roll over itself. Let's give it a spin. Now I like doing this on my bigger sized spinner so that I can scrape up the paint and I can control how fast I'm spinning everything. And I've got plenty of space to maneuver everything if I need to. So let's scrape up some of this extra before it goes flying off everywhere. Okay, and let's give it a good spin. Now at this stage, I'm going to move my painting off center. I'm not liking what's happening here. The white in the cell activator is spread really funny and I don't like it, but nothing I can do now. I'm going to tilt my artwork so that the center is off center. This is a really, really important step so that you don't get a lump of paint in the middle of your artwork. So the next one I do, I'm going to omit the white and I'm also going to leave out Hustle. And we're going to see what that gives us. But for now, this is what we end up with. And I do quite like this color combination, but I think the Hustle is distracting from all of those other glorious colors in there. I'm just going to weasel my scraper up underneath and let's have a look at this. So if you look at the center there, where that light is, let's have a look and see Boastful change. So there's the green, and as you come this way, you get that gorgeous blue. Waterfall is just such an amazing color. It's really, I want to say, taken over the base. It's very visible, which is awesome. But I do think that Hustle has overpowered everything. I've got a little bit of rosé up in the top corner there, but I'm losing the Violet Rain in amongst the Hustle. So we're going to redo this. I'm going to do another clock with the same similar color scheme, but leaving Hustle out this time. So I've just thickened this with a bit of the Taubman's Neutral Untinted paint. Obviously I don't have any of that left, so I'm going to have to find another way to thicken my paint if the new pouring medium doesn't work out the best. And as the flow extender, I am going to use those drippings. So just a ring around the outside. That's going to help everything flow nicely as we spin it. Now let's try and repeat the order that we did that. So we did Boastful, and I want it more around the outsides, because when we blow in the middle, it's going to spread out. I might also this time put just a drizzle of Pretentious in there. Next we'll do Waterfall. Then the Jo Sonja Red Violet. Then let's do Violet Rain. Let's put a fair bit more of that on this time. Our permanent Blue Violet. Actually, let's leave that as the last layer. And let's do Rosé first, directly on top of Violet Rain, and then our permanent Blue Violet. So doing this under the cell activator is going to give us different shaped cells. Okay, and I said I'm going to leave off the white cell activator this time, so let's just do black. Okay, I like that. Go back in with our little tool. Okay, just opening up some of those little cell areas, and let's give this a spin. And I already like this color scheme a lot better without that bright neon pink. Really shows the blues and purples off a lot more. So let's give this a good spin. And looking much better this time. And having that flow extender around the outside means that the design can spread more easily. It's not going to roll over itself. And that can also cause problems for the center. Even though the design's at the edge that's rolling over itself, the center will struggle to move as well if you don't do that. And I've just put my finger straight through that painting. What an idiot. Okay, that's okay. That should all spin off anyway. So let's give it a big spin and get everything moving. Now let's take this opportunity to spin off center. Now there are two ways that you could do this. You could either tilt your piece like I am, or you could move the piece slightly off center. Now usually I would move the piece slightly off center so that the whole design shifts rather than just the middle, and that will mean that you'll get a nice flat painting at the end, and those center cells will hold their shape a lot more without warping. I already really love this combo. That little tiny hint of blush pink in the middle from the rosé is just gorgeous. This is what we end up with. So it looks very purple this time, but it does not look very purple to me. And I think that the purple is going to dry much darker. Now that's because we put that permanent blue violet on top. Now I don't know if you can see that color shift. So there it looks very blue. Here we've got all of that green from Boastful underneath. And then we come to this side and there is that gorgeous deep indigo color. All of that green's gone out of it. Now from my angle, all I can see is blue and it looks gorgeous. And then when you look at it in certain lights, I get the color flash from the Pretentious and the Boastful underneath. So really happy with that one. It's a little bit dark. So let's try the same color scheme, but this time on a white background. There we go. So I've got everything in focus now, and hopefully you're going to see how I blow these out. Right, so because we have started with a white base, for our chameleon pigments to show up, these stuck up pigs, we need to do a color on the base first. So with a paint color, preferably a dark one. So I'm going to start with my Jo Sonja Red Violet first, just thinning that out a little bit. Let's put that on the bottom. Then I'm going to go with, this time I'm going to put Violet Rain first. Again, that color is just a little bit darker, so it's going to help our chameleons stand out. Then let's put Waterfall. Then I'm going to go with Boastful. We'll do just a little splash of Pretentious. Our permanent blue violet. And then rosé. Now I may actually throw a little bit of Prehnite on this one. So Prehnite is our mint green that we've just mixed up. And I'm going to put that as my last colour here. And let's see what effect that gives us, huh? And I'm going to go with black cell activator first and then white on top. Let's give that a go. Ooh. Let's have a look. So you can see all those beautiful colours in there. The rosé on top really sets off the darker colours underneath. I've got some really nice defined cells and lacing happening there. I can see that beautiful colour shift from Boastful peeking through underneath, and Waterfall is really obvious there. So again, really like this one. So this is just the same color scheme, changing one little thing at a time, and you can see we're getting very, very different results. So you guys can't really see Pretentious as much as what I can. That color shift is definitely there, but it's a lot harder to pick that up in with the blues and the purples compared to what Boastful was. So my cells are ringed with Pretentious, so when you turn it at certain angles, you really see that color. Okay, so let's get our bigger piece on. So this bigger piece is a pine round from Bunnings. I'm not exactly sure how big it is, but it is quite large. And I'm just going to go on with the plain untinted house paint, not the thickened stuff, because I actually think this is going to work better for our larger piece. And for this one, I may do a swipe. So I'm going to spin this out a little bit to get it a bit more evenly distributed and flatter. Because with a swipe, your cells tend to form much nicer than with a bloom, and they tend to stay that way. So if you don't want your swipe cells to disintegrate, try spinning and flattening out your paint a little bit first. Now I'm just going to add my flow extender around the edge. This is just the drippings, the leftover pillow paint. Okay, this time let's go on with Violet Rain. All over. It is quite a large piece, so I can go a little bit further with that. I'm going to put Waterfall. Now this blue does like to show up, so I'm drizzling this on because we'll see it in those little pockets of cells. Then I'm going to put a tiny amount of Hustle. So little of that. I will use the permanent blue violet in this one. Again, just drizzling that on. I may add a touch of honeycomb. Because why not? Let's do that just in the center. And then let's also do, I'm going to do Boastful, but on the back of my swipe tool. Okay, so on my swipe tool, let's put on my black cell activator. And I'm using the giant swipe tool from Fluid Co here. So it's this nice big petal shaped one. And I'm just smearing the cell activator on with the back of my stir stick. And I'll show you why I'm doing that in a minute. So when you're applying your cell activator, you don't want it too thick, otherwise it won't make cells. So just like that. And then I'm going to drizzle Boastful onto this, and what this is going to do is going to make our cells ringed with Boastful, and they're going to look really chameleon-like because they will change from the angle that you look at them. Now I am also going to apply a little bit of Boastful to the surface, just a little, and I'm going to do a line of cell activator and a line of cell activator, just so that I get a nice even spread of CA across the whole piece. And let's start. There we go. Already getting some awesome cells popping up. Just what I want. Looks like an awesome spiral galaxy. There is plenty of paint on here, so just shifting things around. And I do want it to move further this way, so I'm going to spin it off center slightly. Nice slow spins with this because the piece is so big. There is a lot of weight behind that paint, and it's going to move a lot quicker than what I can sort of catch it dripping off the edges. Also, working with taller pieces, you have to be careful because if you spin it, that extra height is really going to throw paint way off your spinner. Just catching all these drips, all that extra paint, and yes, that extra paint is necessary so that everything flows nicely. So what I'm wanting out of this one is to keep these cells and open these cells up, but to get rid of the side that doesn't have many cells to it. So that's going to mean scraping off a little bit more paint here and pushing it to the direction I want everything to move. Come on. Got to try and lift it up and shift it over that way. Now again, not too big of a spin. I just want the paint to move all as one. There we go. And that's much better. And what that's doing is opening up this center area as well for a really awesome looking swipe. This is so cool. Waterfall in the middle is just looking absolutely fantastic. Okay, so let's give this another scrape. I move this back to the center, and then we're going to get all of those lovely juicy cells opened up and doing their thing. Okay, so let's have a look at where our center is. Okay, so the center of weight is right here at the moment. So if we push this back to the middle. So what happens when you do this, your paintings will form a seal of the paint underneath and then the air. So it will vacuum itself to the spinner. So you just have to be conscious of that. And lifting and shifting these pieces is why I put the baking paper underneath, so that that's going to get dirty and not everything on top. Okay, so let's give this a good spin. Now we're just getting all that extra paint off, making sure that the center is flat and we're not going to get a mound of paint in the middle, and that our cells are going to dry exactly as they are on the surface here. So I am going to torch just very lightly. It's going to pop all the bubbles. Perfection. And another big spin. Let's have a look. Still just a little bit of paint in the middle there. Can't wait to show you this piece when it's dry. I hope it dries exactly how it is at the moment. Of course, it's going to be a little bit more spun out, so okay, this is fantastic. I'm so happy with how this one's turning out. So we've got that little bit of honeycomb peeking through here. We've got Hustle up in the corner, and we've got Boastful ringing all of the cells, and this middle bit here is all covered in Boastful. So when you look at it from different angles, it goes from blue to green, all the way to that dark indigo color. We've got violet rain all through the outside, so it doesn't look very obvious from certain angles, and then when you tilt your head in certain ways, you get that real wash of violet across the whole thing. So let's take this off the spinner. I need to get some drying area set up for this, and I do need a couple of plates each so that it stays level. Okay, so I'll put this down, I'll move my spinner out of the way, and then I'll show you what this one looks like from above. This here is our finished round. Look at that Boastful doing its job. So you get all that green, the blue, the indigo, that purple, the pink, the honeycomb. Everything just looks so super spectacular on this. And the SUPs, the stuck-up pigs, you really cannot show them on camera. It is so difficult to capture them, the deep vibrance that they offer. I would say Waterfall is one of the colors that shows itself in Boastful, and so when you get it in a certain light, it just washes the whole thing in a blue, where Waterfall is lacking. Boastful picks it up. Glorious. Alright guys, I'm going to let these dry. We'll come back when we're ready to put varnish on them, and as usual, if you like what I'm doing, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.